the political operators, the quote political operators, maybe they're just better at navigating organizational politics and complexity than the rest of us. Maybe that's a truth, and maybe we should be learning from them.
Well, it depends on what your MO is, right? If you want to get up ahead in the organization, there is no other way. Mm-hmm. So the most effective communicators are those ones that can change very quickly based on who they're speaking with.
Yeah. Oh, you mean manipulating the narrative?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's, you bring us back to the core issue of the podcast, which is I'm saying that manipulating the narrative, that's changing the message. That's not just language.
You might think that's a nefarious thing to do. However, this can only be contrasted with the level of success these people achieve. There's a reason for that, right? So if you're ethically bound to not do this and just stand for what's right, etc., great. Stay with that. But also, don't expect to be drifting along the halls of whatever floor your sea level
the halls
is, right?
Of power, that's right.
Don't expect that because that's not going to happen.
Well, you don't even know it, but you're in the steelman point right now. You might as well continue, because what you were just saying in the steelman position was the organizations are inherently political systems. They just are. People who refuse to adapt their communication style to deal with organizational politics, they're just choosing to be ineffective at organizational politics, and therefore they're basically kneecapping the rest of their career. That's what you're saying.
It's true. However, I think we've kind of just pointed out the binary situation, right? There are those people that can judiciously operate in the space where they just sprinkle up enough. On the whole, they also care about people to not throw them under the bus.
Yeah.
I've worked with a couple of people like that over the whole of my career. Only come across very few. I count on one hand with fingers to spare. But these people are genuine in that you don't see them necessarily sacrificing others for their own well-being or for their own interest even, to progress their own purposes. So these people will be the first to say, the teams are experiencing this. But when it's the right time, they will also twist the message the way they feel the message should be twisted.
Yeah.
So it's not a binary. I don't know. Maybe it's possible for you to do that and walk on a tightrope.
Well,
and it takes time to develop that.
Well, then let me then step into my office and let me tell you a story. Let's see if I can't change your mind.
All right, let's go.
I'm going to take the steel man off the screen for a second, and you can step into my office, because I'm going to tell you that these quote political operators, these refugees from the truth right now, they have three patterns. Okay, they have three patterns. Number one, they take credit for collaborative work. Get on a call with 2-3 other developers. You work through this real sticky bug, a real impactful feature or whatever. And then that one person comes out and claims credit for all of it. Number two, they shift blame whenever the outcome is poor. So they are still on that call or whatever. They still do the thing with the bug. But then if it's badly perceived, they find a way to exit stage left. They were never even involved. You didn't even see them. They were never here.
Yeah.
And then number three, their story about events changes based on who holds power. So I just gave you the three. So for all y'all listeners out there, I don't know why I went into my Morgan Freeman voice. For all y'all listeners out there looking to exploit the side of evil for love and profit, I just gave you the 3-step plan. It's different than Carmen's 4-step plan, but very slightly different.
Yeah, very slightly, but also I think this is something that even Morgan Freeman wouldn't necessarily disagree with. If your interest is self-interest, primarily and for the most part, that's what it is. This is what you show up to work for. Yeah. Then those three, underscored by it takes what it takes for me to succeed. I mean, you will succeed. There's no doubt. I hope you can sleep at night. Some of us can't, but that's more on us than anything else. So those 3 points are solid. Again, if you can do this, but also not sacrifice those that are you do credit, but also you don't have to necessarily take credit. You also don't necessarily have to cast blame either, right? You can look at the facts and go with that. Mm-hmm. So especially on the blame side, on the credit side, give credit where it's due. Yeah. End of story. And a leader should recognize that. But in terms of casting blame, I fundamentally believe everybody comes to work to do a good, solid day's work. It's not like people come in to say, well, let's just fail the sprint or this month. Nobody does that. But when things go badly, look at the factors and tackle the issue, the problem, not the people. Mm-hmm. So casting blame on the people, it's not going to go well for long anyway.
Yeah. Well, I have the other side of this is political operators are never wrong. I got the career story of this one. I got you on this one as far as like an actual evidence for my career.
Yeah.
Because political operators are never like the story. When I said number 3, the story about events changes based on who's in power. So they end up on the right side of the story. For example, I was at a company one time where the CEO changed, and all of these political operators saw which way the wind was blowing. So the way they say, "Well, I had never agreed with the thing that you disagreed with, Mr. New CEO person," or whatever. Like they're recrafting all their stories to be like, "Oh, I always agreed with you." It sounds funny. It was never this like overly dramatic, melodramatic kind of performance they put on. It was just a subtle adjustment that was just creepy enough to be perceived by all the workers as like exactly what it was. I mean, and the best story I have for this, and I've told this on a podcast, but I'm pretty sure I've not told this story on a podcast in like 150 episodes of, I worked in one place that there was this prima donna developer. He was an exceptional developer, first of all. Out of all the developers, he had been at the company the longest. So when you're a developer, time and service is like tribal knowledge right there. So you happen to know certain pieces of code, what they do, and you're more familiar with them and stuff like that because you've just spent more time. So he was sort of like management's go-to guy. The hey buddy development, middle of the night, kind of knocking stuff out, making everyone else look bad because like, oh, I punched this stuff out overnight. What are y'all lazy people doing?
Right.
And these 3 patterns that I pointed out, that was him to a T. When stuff was going on, he would be the first guy to be like, I resolved the bug. I worked late and did this new feature or whatever. And he completely pulled the wool over management and everyone else's eyes. Well, the rest of the development team, the QA and everybody else was like quiet folks, heads down, getting their work done day to day. You know what I mean?
But he's the teacher's pet.
Not really kind of seeking glory or whatever. And at one point, we were peer in the organization. I was just a QA engineer and he was just a development engineer, whatever they call it, software engineer, right? And I just watched him rise and rise and rise to a high-level supervisory type of role. And it was just bananas because it was just this kind of stuff. Just changing his story to always be on the right side of whatever argument or always be seen as a hero, shifting blame off to the team whenever a failure would happen. And I remember exactly when I knew that my time at that company was done. This is untenable. I can't live with this person anymore. I can't sit by anymore and have my credit claimed by this person anymore. Right. Because we had just pulled like a very in-depth sprint where we committed to way too much stuff. And we ended up knocking things out, making the sale, getting the big customer. We ended up knocking out the real impactful features. We ended up selling the customer, making the sale. We ended up basically cashing the check that the sales folks and everyone in the company wrote. We did it. On time, under budget, that kind of thing. And it was in front of the whole company and the CEO and the C-suite. It was a big, like, hurrah, yay, we did it event. The whole company is standing there. And I remember I was standing sort of like in the back, and I could see my team. I was a manager at this point. I could see my team on the other side of the room, and the CEO was calling up the different department heads. And every single department head was like, this was a major opportunity, and I couldn't have done it without this person, and I couldn't have done it without this person. And some people handed off to their subordinates to make little mini speeches or whatever. Yeah. Or thanks to this person, they stayed on the phones a line. Thanks to this person, they went to the customer site and they slept under a table and whatever. And then they handed it over to this guy. And he was like, yeah, it took a lot of late nights, and I was deep in the code, but eventually I got it over the finish line, and I'm happy that you all are. And I was like, wow. I was like, this guy just took credit for the entire development department. He handed off to nobody. He gave credit to nobody but himself in front of the whole company. Got no pushback from anybody. And I knew that. I was like, I'm done here. That was my moment of zen, my moment of clarity that a whole world came together.
These people that are like the person you're describing also have another characteristic that often goes hand in glove with, who they are. And that is they hoard knowledge. So they're not going to mentor other people because their equity is their knowledge. So they're going to hoard that knowledge. Right. And when you see those kinds of things happening in your organization, you can kind of bracket people, that person. Chances are they're going to claim all the credit and cast all the blame. If you're in an organization where there are people like that and no one is speaking up, you could be the person who speaks up. Kind of a risque move too, because these people are already management's pet. So keep that resume updated, but then speak up. People like this, when they move up in the organization, they don't change as a person. They're going to have the same MO going up and up. So again, just be aware that these people aren't going to change. If you're in that organization, you've got to either make a decision to put up with it or leave.
So I've got a zinger for you. It's political operators. They collect allies, and political navigators build relationships. One is transactional, and the other is transformational, and everybody can tell the difference.
Everybody should be able to tell the difference. I mean, even the newcomers, you don't have to be on the job for very long to be able to see this, right? You hear people talk, and you'll pick up on the situation. So I agree. I think it's pretty clear. There are very few people that can kind of straddle those two. People are either on the left or the right, so to speak,
Right.
on this scale. Depending on where you aspire to be, you can align yourself with these people,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
I don't advise anybody to be on that other side.
I mean-
but hey, again, don't take advice from me because
You can
know.
align yourself to these people. That's just like the Game of Thrones.
Oh,
At-
yeah.
At what season are you going to get
Sure.
wiped out? Basically,
Sure.
like it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. I have a takeaway here. I don't know if it's good, so I'll let you figure out. So there's this credit to blame asymmetry from my story about when I needed to get away from this person, right? And when you go through that experience, it kind of opens your mind to always be looking out for people like that are using this I language. And in fact, I wonder if you've heard this about like, oh, when you're interviewing, you need to use I language, not we language, because people want to hear that you did the thing. And you're like, yeah, but I didn't directly do the thing. You know, I was part of a team and the whole team did the thing. And maybe I'm like, as a product manager, my job is kind of to navigate the team and that kind of stuff. I'm not doing every single thing myself. And in modern business, anybody who's actually doing successful business knows that things are done as a team. Very little things are done as a solo operator, as the hero or whatever. And then they ask you to change your language to make yourself into the hero.
Yeah.
And I just don't like that. I don't think it's good advice. I'm looking out for people doing that because I'm labeling those people as like, ooh, there's an ego right there. I don't know if I can navigate that ego or coach or manage up or whatever the other things are.
First of all, it's terrible advice in interviews to always focus on the I, because anybody should know that one person doesn't do all this stuff, right? I'd rather focus on having improved the conditions for my team to succeed. Because isn't that what I'm really being interviewed for, not to be the solo hero here?
Yeah.
That would be my focus. If you're seeing people who interview like that and you happen to be on the other side of the table where you're the interviewer, ego is one thing. I mean, these people have got bad advice, right? To your point, focus on you. They're the ones that are always saying, and my actions led to an improvement of 12%. Okay, fine. But really, what did you do to make that happen? I mean, you can interview around that, but yeah, it is terrible advice to always focus on the I language. Whoever came up with that.
I think it's just the pathological nature of the organization showing through to be like, we're looking for heroes. We're looking for 10x developers, and we're all out of H-1Bs to exploit or whatever.
No,
Like,
I think the same people that put in their JDs that we're looking for a team player.
But this thing, looking out for people that are claiming credit, while those three things I listed before, looking out for that, that shows a pattern. That's a political operator, and you need to distance yourself. It's amazing. We haven't even brought ourselves to our advice.
Yeah, distance yourself or
Keep that resume up. That's right. So have you worked with a political operator? I want to hear all about it.
let us know your anecdotes in the comments.